and then clicking and dragging. You want to be careful scaling objects. You can create bad-looking art or ridiculous-looking art this way. We'll talk more about that in later tutorials. For now, I'm just going to Control-Z to undo that, and we'll leave it at the basic size. The Creation Kit also features some new tools called gizmos. Gizmos are sort of visual helpers for these basic operations. So for instance, if I hit the E key, this is the translation gizmo or movement gizmo. It gives us all the same basic operations, but we can finely tune how we move the object in a visual way. So for instance, when I hover over one of these axes, you'll see the handle, that's this little arrow here, turn yellow. So I'll grab the red handle, and then when I click and drag on it, I just move the object along that axis. Likewise for each other axis. And these little rectangles here, let me move it on a combination of axes. So if I grab this horizontal one, I move on the horizontal axis. If I grab this one along the back side, you'll see I'm moving along two axes here. And similarly, if I grab this other side axis one, or this side plane handle, I can move along these two axes, the green and the blue. If I hit W, I get the rotation gizmo, which, following the same logic, gives me a circle for each axis that I can rotate the object on. Works just the same way. Hover over till it turns yellow, grab it by clicking and holding, and then drag your mouse to rotate the selected object along those axes. You note there's no multi-axis gizmo for rotation. That's just for translation. There's also the 2 button for the scale gizmo. Now because this is a static object, I can't non-uniformly scale it. So the axes don't actually mean anything very useful right now. We'll get more into that later when we start dealing with primitives. Also, whenever you've used a gizmo, make sure you press the same hotkey, 2 in this case, to turn it back off so you can resume normal manipulation of the object. Now let's try dragging a new object into our cell. I'm going to go back over to the object window here, and I'm going to grab one of these kettles. Now this kettle is what you call a base object. The base object is sort of the template from which all instances of the object are created. So in this case, it's a MISC item. It's got some weight. It's got a keyword. We don't really care about these properties right now. We're just going to drag in this kettle, and that's a new reference. A reference is sort of like a copy. I can move this around, manipulate it just the same way as I did the chest. I can hit Control-D and create new copies of it. And so we'll just scatter some kettles around the room here. Sort of put the chest somewhat back where it was. We're not going to save any of this. We're just learning right now, so don't worry too much. Duplicate another one of these, and we'll make an upside down kettle. Why not? Also notice when I move these things around, it's really fluid and smooth. That's because I don't have snapping turned on. If you look up here in the main toolbar, there's 2 icons with these sort of red shapes. The circular dot is going to turn on grid snapping. Now notice when I translate the object that it sort of pops around. This is because I'm at a 64 unit grid. That means that each time I move the object, it will move 64 units exactly in whatever direction. This becomes really important as we'll cover in the next tutorial with layout. I can also change this value arbitrarily. Bear in mind, factors of 8 work best. 64, 128, 256, 32. Numbers like this are perfect. There's also snap to angle. That's this other icon here. Snap to angle means that when I rotate the object, just the same, it's going to rotate a certain number of degrees that we've set. In this case, it's 45 degrees. Now you can toggle that on with the buttons in the main toolbar, which we've already talked about, by snapping here in the render window properties, or once you get quick with this stuff, you can toggle this on by hitting Q, like so. And then you can turn off and on rotation snapping by hitting Control-Q, which you'll start doing a lot of as you get more advanced. So one more important detail you're going to want to know early on is how to actually save and test your mod. So far, we haven't actually saved. So let's go ahead and do that now. You can either click the disk icon up here or hit Control S, and then we want to navigate to our Skyrim data folder. For most people, that's going to be in Program Files, Steam, Steam Apps, Common, Skyrim, Data. You'll see here that other plugin we saw earlier is already in this folder. So we're just going to call this testmod 01, or whatever you prefer, and we'll save it. Notice now that testmod 01 appears in the title bar of the creation kit. This indicates that this is our active file. This is the one and only plugin to which our changes will be saved each time we hit the save key. So let's run it in game now. You can either use your regular Skyrim shortcut or go to your games library again and run the game. This is going to bring up the launcher. From the launcher, click on Data Files, and we'll see here that we have these various checkboxes. Testmod 01 is already checked, which means we're going to load it. You can also tell the game not to load certain mods. So we're going to turn off coolmod.esp. We just want to load Skyrim and testmod 01. We'll hit OK, and let's run the game. Okay, so once we're at the main menu of the game, we want to pull up the console. To do that, just hit tilde. The console is where we can enter all kinds of different commands that help us test the game. Right now, we want to just go to the mod cell that we created. So we're going to type COC, that stands for center on cell, unowned cell. Go ahead and hit enter, and it'll start loading. Now notice we're right where that blue marker was. That's actually what that marker is for. So we're looking at a blank wall, but if we turn around, we see all the kettles, we see the modified position of the chest, and that's basically it. We've gone ahead and jumped in the editor, made our own plugin, and tested it in game. With this basic knowledge, you should be set to follow through the rest of the tutorials and begin experimenting with the Creation Kit. Can't wait to see what you come up with.
That's all for our first episode. Join us next time as Justin Schramm helps us lay the foundation of our first project with basic layout. In the meantime, you can visit creationkit.com for more information.